Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 1100 and... I forget which episode it is. 1219 of the Juicebox Podcast. This is becoming a problem. Erin is 44 years old. She was just diagnosed last year after being misdiagnosed as a... Nothing's going right. Hold on. Erin is 44 years old. She was diagnosed a year ago after being misdiagnosed as a type 2 since 2014, for almost 10 years. We're going to go back into Erin's life, talk about some things she's had done as a child. She's had issues conceiving, has hearing issues, a lot going on here. Erin's terrific. You're going to love it. We're calling this episode 137 and counting. You'll find out why later. Please don't forget that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. When you place your first order for AG1 with my link, you'll get 5 free travel packs and a free year's supply of vitamin D. drinkag1.com/juicebox. You have type 1? You're the caregiver of a type 1? You're a U.S. citizen? Perfect. T1dexchange.org/juicebox. Carve out 10 minutes, complete that survey, make Scotty happy in his heart. T1dexchange.org/juicebox. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by US Med. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. US Med is where my daughter gets her diabetes supplies from, and you could too. Use the link or number to get your free benefit check and get started today with US Med. This show is sponsored today by the glucagon that my daughter carries, Gvoke HypoPen. Find out more at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox. Today's episode is sponsored by Medtronic Diabetes, a company that's bringing people together to redefine what it means to live with diabetes. Later in this episode, I'll be speaking with Jalen. He was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at 14. He's 29 now. He's going to tell you a little bit about his story. And then later at the end of this episode, you can hear my entire conversation with Jalen. To hear more stories with Medtronic Champions, go to medtronicdiabetes.com/juicebox or search the hashtag Medtronic Champion on your favorite social media platform.
Hi, my name is Erin. I am 44 years old. I am a teacher and a mom and a wife, and diagnosed with type 1 diabetes about a year ago.
Wow. 44, diagnosed a year ago with type 1. Any other autoimmune issues?
Not that I'm aware of. I was actually diagnosed with type 2 diabetes kind of accidentally in 2014. And then about a year ago when I went to see my endocrinologist, some weird stuff was going on, weight loss, unexplained weight loss. And my A1C was like on a roller coaster for the past 3 visits. He sat me down and he said, you have to go do these tests today. And so that's how it came about as type 1.
Erin, were you living as a type 2 for 10 years?
Yes, I was. And so like my A1, when I was first diagnosed with type 2 in 2014, I actually went to see an endocrinologist because I had a cyst on my thyroid through these scans that they would have at school. I'm a public school teacher, and they would do these, they were called stroke scans.
Mm-hmm.
They would test all kinds of things. They would come to your school and do it. So we had actually just completed 3 years of fertility treatments without success. And so through that stroke scan, they found a cyst on my thyroid, and it kind of freaked me out. And so I was like, well, let me go to an endocrinologist. And of course, when I got there, he was like, well, let's see if you have diabetes. Like they checked my thyroid. It was fine, but my blood work came back abnormal. And so he's like, well, it's the end of the day. Let's do fasting labs. My A1C was a little high. My blood sugar was high. It came back like my fasting was elevated. It may have been like 180.
Mm-hmm.
The numbers came back as abnormal. So he's like, well, let's do a glucose tolerance test. And so I did that, and it was terrible. I remember going back to work, and I was an assistant principal at the time, and I just went back into my office and closed the door and fell asleep on my desk for like 3 hours. I was like, why did they let me even leave? It was terrible.
How high was your blood sugar?
Like I think for the glucose tolerance, it was mid like 300s, but I felt terrible.
Yeah, no kidding.
And they didn't check my blood sugar at all. Like when I did the 3-hour waiting or whatever you had to do, they took blood and they said, okay, bye, see you later. Like nobody checked anything. And so I felt terrible, went back to work. And about 3 days later, I got a call from the nurse and she was like, you need to come in. The doctor's like, we can't explain why you have type 2 diabetes, but I have to, that's what it is. I didn't want to do medicine. So I started like running like a crazy person and eating like, crazy diet. I lost some weight, which I wasn't. I was only 110 pounds when I was diagnosed. The doctors, we did all the tests. He's like, I can't figure this out. You shouldn't have type 2 diabetes. But I did. And so I lived with that for 10 years and started seeing a different endocrinologist. And, I did fine on metformin for a while. I was on 2 oral medications and eventually they just stopped working. And my A1C started on a roller coaster. And he finally said, you need to go have these tests. I was kind of in denial about what was going on. I didn't want to do it. And he's like, okay, I'm going to be your big brother now. You're going today to do these tests.
Okay.
And then it came back, my C-peptide showed that my pancreas was doing nothing. So it's taking all these medicines for nothing.
Yeah. But so you basically had LADA. You had a 10-year slow onset of type 1.
Right.
Wow. It's funny. Yeah. People come on and tell those stories and I know it happens, but still when it's said out loud, you're like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
Really, really insane. Were there detrimental effects to you being treated as a type 2 for 10 years?
I don't think so. I've been pretty good about, eye appointments and things like that. Like I don't have any eye issues or so far like any kidney issues. My kidneys are like for a while, my kidneys were not, I was producing protein in my urine and that has cleared up, because I started taking care of myself. Now that since I was diagnosed a year ago and started on insulin, I feel the best that I've felt in a long time.
Really?
Yeah. So it's probably been more than a year that, this was going on, that I should have been on insulin.
Yeah.
But I just was kind of in denial. You always justify, oh, I have 2 kids, I'm a teacher, it's really stressful during the school year, so that's why I want to sleep, 14 hours a day. It's like, or, I'm losing weight. And I even had people asking me, are you okay? Like, because I was under 100 pounds and they were asking me, are you feeling okay? like, I'm like, why? Oh my God, I look terrible. What's happening?
How tall are you?
I'm 5'2".
Wow. Jeez. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That really, I want to say that if any of you are sleeping 14 hours a day, something's wrong.
Yes. Right.
I want you all to hear me. That's not normal. Okay.
Right.
I don't know what it is. Right. I'm not saying you have type 1 diabetes, but go to a doctor.
You need to go to the doctor.
Yeah. Get all the blood work done. All of it.
Yeah. All of it.
Can you look at my vitamin K, please, while you're in there? Whatever you got.
Right.
I'm just making up a vitamin, by the way. Look at all the vitamins. Yeah.
Right. And vitamin D, right?
Oh, please. Yeah. Vitamin D. Look at my thyroid. Can you check this? I'm starting to look into all kinds of stuff right now. I just switched one of Arden's vitamins to a methylated vitamin to see if that might have help. Just anything, please. Don't sleep 14 hours a day.
Right. Yes. You have to be awake to be alive, right?
Yeah. Something's going on if that's happening.
Right.
My gosh.
Right.
So a fairly large shock or no? Was it just something you rolled with? If you take insulin or sulfonylureas, you are at risk for your blood sugar going too low. You need a safety net when it matters most. Be ready with Gvoke HypoPen. My daughter carries Gvoke HypoPen everywhere she goes because it's a ready-to-use rescue pen for treating very low blood sugar in people with diabetes ages 2 and above that I trust. Low blood sugar emergencies can happen unexpectedly. and they demand quick action. Luckily, Gvoke HypoPen can be administered in 2 simple steps, even by yourself in certain situations. Show those around you where you store Gvoke HypoPen and how to use it. They need to know how to use Gvoke HypoPen before an emergency situation happens. Learn more about why Gvoke HypoPen is in Arden's Diabetes Toolkit at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox. Gvoke shouldn't be used if you have a tumor in the gland on the top of your kidneys called a pheochromocytoma, or if you have a tumor in your pancreas called an insulinoma. Visit gvokeglucagon.com/risk for safety information.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was kind of an answer for why I was feeling bad. Like I would, like in that, probably the year before last September when he said, we're moving this to type 1 diabetes. I was going to, like, we would have, we'd go to friends' houses to watch football games or whatever. And by halftime, I would have to leave because I felt so terrible, and I just, couldn't figure out what was going on, like losing weight. And it was just really weird. And I should have said something sooner. And I think my doctor knew what was going on, but he didn't want to push me to go get those tests. And then finally he just said, okay, that's it. We've been dealing with this for a year. We're not playing around with this anymore.
Okay. Well, yeah, please, let's stop playing around with things if you don't mind.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I'd like to get moving here. Oh my gosh.
And so the interesting thing about my diagnosis is that there's not really a strong family history. There's no one in my family that I know of that has type 1 diabetes or any other autoimmune issues that they know about. Mm-hmm. And so it's just kind of I hit the jackpot, the health jackpot.
Lucky you.
Yeah, lucky me.
You have other stuff going on?
When I was a kid, I was the kid that always had ear infections and ear issues. So I had 7 sets of tubes, 3 sets of permanent tubes, tonsils, adenoids, all of those things out. So the tubes cause scarring on my eardrums. And so I had to have surgery, 3 surgeries. They're called tympanoplasties to repair the hole in the eardrum. And so because of that, I have permanent ringing in the ears. And so I wear hearing aids to help with that, that deficit. So my kids at school, like they say I'm a robot because I have all of these things connected to me to help me be a person, a whole person.
So when you and I are talking right now, or if it's completely silent, you hear ringing?
Correct. All the time.
Is it loud?
Well, I don't know because I don't know what it's like to not have ringing in your ears.
Is there a way to describe it?
It's been my whole life, with all my memories, my ears have been ringing.
Oh my gosh. Do you get headaches?
No. No. And well, here's the crazy thing. I'm actually a music teacher.
You can you hear pitch fine and all that other stuff.
Yeah. I mean, well enough to, I teach kindergarten and 2nd grade ukulele and 3rd through 5th grade guitar. So I hear well enough to produce some good little musicians in elementary school.
Yeah. I was going to say these kids aren't Steve Vai. You don't need to hear it that well, I guess.
No. Gotcha. Absolutely not.
Oh, that's insane. Wait, I have a question. Do your ears ring in your dreams?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't ever wake up thinking, but like as I'm falling asleep, I can hear the ringing in my ears.
But in your dreams, you don't think of it as being there?
Nope.
It's interesting. Dreams are strange.
Yes, they are. I had some scary dreams last night about one of my youngest child fell out of the attic stairs.
That's what you dreamt about last night? That's what you dreamt about last night?
That's what I dreamt about last night. Oh. And I think we've been going in and out of the attic for Christmas decorations. And he's only 2. He's been wanting to get in and out of the attic. Mm-hmm. And so I had this crazy dream last night about him crawling in the attic. And then he fell. Isn't that terrible? I woke up in a panic.
So last night, I dreamt that I had to borrow someone's truck and it got into an accident. And when they found out, they hit me. The night before, this is ridiculous. The night before, I had a dream about my friend Adam, who's been on the podcast, by the way, who's not a person I dream about. He and I were on Little League baseball teams, but we were adults. And I was coaching third base and he was on third base and we were talking. And when we were talking, I realized that the infield was inside of a room, but the outfield was outdoors. And that there were doorways at third and first base that led to the base paths that went from first to second and second to third. But for some reason, when you hit a ball, it didn't hit the wall. It went out into the outfield.
Okay.
And I don't know what any of that was about. But if anybody can break that down for me, let me know.
Right. Interpret that for you. Yeah.
Oh, my God. He's like,
That's
I texted him. I told him that. He goes, well, what was I saying? And I was like, I don't remember what you were talking about. I was like, but good news, you made it to third base.
Yeah, that is good.
Oh my God. Okay. Anyway, sorry. So you get diabetes for real. They give it, they tell you for sure. And you start with what kind of technology?
Well, it's very interesting. The nurse at the endocrinologist called me and it was just like, I mean, I know they deal with this every day. She called me. She's like, well, you have type 1 diabetes. I'm like, oh, okay. Like on the phone. And she's like, what kind of pump and what kind of CGM do you want? I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. What are you talking about? Pump CGM. And so I convinced her to we scheduled an appointment with a doctor so I could go in and talk to him because I didn't know what any of that was. The only experience with type 1 that I've had was from being a school administrator. And because I had type 2, I automatically knew how to deal with type 1 diabetes.
Sure enough.
And the school. So I was always the one that got the medical training to help the, few type 1 diabetes students that we would have.
Yeah.
So that was my only knowledge of type 1. So I went in and of course he suggested a Dexcom and an Omnipod. So in the meantime, before I could get that, they put me on injections. They were giving me Dexcoms, just samples from their office until we could get insurance stuff straightened out, which was another nightmare of denials and denials and denials before they finally said, oh, okay, I guess you do need this to function, as normal as possible in life.
I used to hate ordering my daughter's diabetes supplies. I never had a good experience and it was frustrating. But it hasn't been that way for a while, actually for about 3 years now, because that's how long we've been using US Med. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. US Med is the #1 distributor for Freestyle Libre systems nationwide. They are the #1 specialty distributor for Omnipod DASH, the #1 fastest growing tandem distributor nationwide, the #1 rated distributor in Dexcom customer satisfaction surveys. They have served over 1 million people with diabetes since 1996, and they always provide 90 days worth of supplies and fast and free shipping. US Med carries everything from insulin pumps and diabetes testing supplies to the latest CGMs like the Libre 3 and Dexcom G7. They accept Medicare nationwide and over 800 private insurers. Find out why US Med has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau at usmed.com/juicebox or just call them at 888-721-1514. Get started right now, and you'll be getting your supplies the same way we do. This episode is sponsored by Medtronic Diabetes. MedtronicDiabetes.com/juicebox. And now we're going to hear from Medtronic champion, Jalen.
I was going straight into high school, so it was a summer heading into high school.
Was that particularly difficult?
Unimaginable. I missed my entire summer. So I was going to a brand new school. I was around a bunch of new people that I had not been going to school with. So it was hard trying to balance that while also explaining to people what type 1 diabetes was. My hometown did not have an endocrinologist. So I was traveling over an hour to the nearest endocrinologist for children. So, outside of that, I didn't have any type of support in my hometown.
Did you try to explain to people or did you find it easier just to stay private?
I just held back. I didn't really like talking about it. It felt like it was just a repeating record where I was saying things and people weren't understanding it. And I also was still in the process of learning it. So I just kept it to myself, didn't really talk about it.
Did you eventually find people in real life that you could confide in?
I never really got the experience until after getting to college. And then once I graduated college, it's all I see. You can easily search Medtronic Champions. You see people that pop up and you're like, wow, look at all this content. And I think that's something that motivates me. Started embracing more, how I live with type 1 diabetes.
To hear Jalen's entire conversation, stay till the very end. MedtronicDiabetes.com/juicebox to hear more stories from the Medtronic Champion community. I want to ask you about the insurance, but before I do, I have a different question.
Okay.
An administrator at a school, and
Yes.
they come to you when kids and parents say, I have type 1 diabetes. We need somebody to understand this. They go, oh, we'll get Erin. I heard her say diabetes once. And
Pretty
So
much.
now you're brought in as a type 2, and that's your knowledge. You take metformin and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can be honest about it, what did you how valuable were you to those families as far as understanding type 1 and what they needed?
It was one school that I was at, and we only had a nurse that was there for half the day. And so I would have to help the student with her mealtime. So she would chart out, like before she would leave, this is what the carb count is, and this is how many units of insulin that she needs. Mm-hmm. And so funny enough, I was comfortable with drawing the medicine out of the insulin vial because she was not on any kind of like pens or anything. It was a vial with a needle. I was comfortable doing that because of the fertility treatments. Like I had to do for, 3 years, I was injecting, hormones into my body. So I was comfortable pulling the insulin out and helping her do the shot.
Sure.
But it was still scary. I mean, it's, such a little portion and you're like, am I seeing this correctly? Am I doing this correctly? Mm-hmm. And then to inject a child that's not your own child with, something that could harm them. It was scary.
Pressure. Yeah. But if that kid comes, like if they brought that kid into your office, you're like, hey, she's having a seizure, would you know what to do?
Right. They trained me on how to use, she had glucagon, but I had never actually used it before.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess I would call 911. It would be my first action.
But at that time, as a type 2.
But yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy.
At that time, as a type 2, you were no more overqualified than any other person in the school who would have taken on the training.
No.
Right. Okay.
No, absolutely not. I think, I was an administrator and I was probably the most comfortable with helping the student. But that was probably my only, and then the training that the nurse gave me, and that was it.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Like I don't think you should have been. I think I'm just trying to point out to people who think, oh, it's okay because they had type 2 diabetes and they trained them. They're
right.
Yeah, I mean
it's totally different. I mean, it's different taking a pill in the morning than giving yourself an injection.
Yeah. If that kid comes in with a low blood sugar, you would not know how to like assess how many carbs would bring them back up.
No.
Right. Yeah. Okay. No, it's fine. I wouldn't expect you to.
Probably not. Yeah. And not at that time, but now at this time, yes.
Now you got it. Sure. Well, now you're stuck. Now that's your job.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, now I was an administrator, so I have a weird teaching path. Like I was a band director for 8 years. I left to do administration for 5 years. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. And then we adopted our first child. And I said, an opportunity came up to go teach guitar. And I said, well, I'm going to go back in the classroom. So for the past 7 years, I've been teaching back in the classroom.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's interesting. And
yeah.
So you mentioned IVF, but it did not take for you?
It did not work. Yeah. We never did IVF. We did IUI.
Oh.
And then after 6 rounds of that, it didn't work. And so we said, we're stepping away from this. It was too much for us emotionally. And so we decided to step away from it and to pursue adoption. So we've adopted 2 little boys. We have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old.
The IUI, was that self-administered or did you go into an office for that?
To an office, yeah. So I would do the hormones and then they would do all the other things where they mix it all up. And then I would go back into the doctor's office for the procedure. Not to get too graphic.
No. Oh, please, graphic. Did you not hear the episode? You don't?
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, so Erin, this is interesting. Erin told me before we started recording, she listens, but she's one of the people who's like, I'm starting at the beginning and I'm going straight through and I won't jump ahead. So how long have you been listening to the podcast?
I guess 8 months or so, because I was diagnosed about a year ago and found you on Facebook somehow and started listening then.
But you're only at episode what?
Like 100 and what did I say? 137?
Yeah,
something like that.
You're never catching me, Erin.
No, I'm never catching up.
But there was an episode that went up a couple of weeks ago that I talked about the insemination process with a lesbian couple. And when you finally get to that episode, which is a terrific episode, by the way, but when you get to it, you'll think back to when you said not to get too graphic and you'll think, oh, yeah, I didn't get too graphic.
I didn't get too graphic. Yeah. Yeah. Well, when we were going through that process, I wanted to make jokes about it because how else do you, that's the only way I knew how to cope with it. So the doctor would come in and be like, is this your husband's name? And I would say, well, I mean, that's his name, but I don't know what's in that vial. And they would just like give me the side eye. Like, that's not funny. We've been sued for that before.
Oh, yeah. We don't want to hear about this. Yeah, I would have said.
Yeah, we don't want to hear about that again.
I would have said.
And so then the doctor would do the procedure and before he'd leave the room, I'd say, well, I hope you got me pregnant this time. He would just look at me like, that's not funny.
You're terrible at this, buddy. Also, I think you should dim the lights when we're doing this.
Yes, exactly.
That would have made him really uncomfortable.
Right.
Could you dim the lights and put some music on, please?
Right,
yeah.
right.
And say something nice, would you?
Right. Yeah. Whisper in my ear.
Well, no, see, now you just made it creepy, Erin. Good job.
Yeah, I did make it creepy. I'm sorry. And my husband was in the room for all of this. So.
Oh, well, I guess I don't know what that is. I don't even know how to disseminate that.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. Okay. Well, I'm sorry it didn't work out, but you stole a baby from a mall. What did you do? You adopted?
We adopted, yes. 2 little boys, yeah.
Oh, wow. Good for you. Did you get them at the same time?
Yeah.
Like a 2-for-1 deal?
Wait, hang on. My Dexcom's going off again.
Oh, don't worry.
Can you hear that in the phone or no?
No, it's a gap in audio. You get silent when it happens.
Yeah, well, that's what's happening.
That's fine. Are you low?
So I'm just going to do a little bit more.
What was your blood sugar?
Oh, it was only 152.
Do you consider that's high? You're bolusing for that.
That's high.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. Well, anytime it gets over 140, I get nervous.
Well, I don't want you to be nervous, but I like you bolusing.
I've been changing, just from listening to the, a couple episodes on, I don't wait 3 months to go for the endo to tell me what to do.
Right.
I heard, talking about keeping the range between 70 and 140 and, not far into it, I changed my range to that. And when I went to the endo the last time, my A1C was 5.6, I think.
See, Erin, this is exciting actually, because I've been making this podcast a long ass time. So we're recording in 2023. This is my 9th year making the podcast.
Right.
And unlike some people's podcasts, I put them up once a month or twice a month or something like that. Like when I tell you I've been making it for a year, I've been making it every day for a year, And so I used to say, when the podcast was older, I used to say, look, just listen to the podcast and your A1C will come down. And, because the information's in there, it's sprinkled about. It wasn't until the podcast started to approach 200 episodes that I started thinking, is it unreasonable to ask somebody to listen to 200 episodes of a podcast to get their A1C down? It felt unreasonable. So that was kind of one of the onuses of making the Pro Tip series, which you have not heard yet.
No.
But you think the podcast has helped you get your A1C to 5.6?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Because I would have never known to go in and change my range from, 70 to 140. Like, I don't think my endo would have told me that. Like, I've even gone in and changed my carb to insulin ratio was high enough. So it gave me the courage to just go in and change it.
Wow.
Like, without waiting to go to the endo.
You're an old school podcast listener in 2023.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. And then I went to the endo and he said, your carb to insulin ratio is this. And I said, well, that's what you set it at, but I changed it to this. And he saw my A1C and he was just like, okay, that's fine. He had nothing what was he going to complain about?
I know. It's fantastic, though, that it's a medical appointment and it's so often people's doctors are like, no, that's wrong. And you go, but look at this. And they go, oh, okay.
Right. Yeah.
So then it wasn't wrong?
Yeah. So, I mean, he's totally fine with it. Like, I'm going to go today and I actually have my Dexcom on a place that's not FDA approved. And he's probably going to be like, oh, that's interesting. I'm like, well, it works right there for me. The children of my skin.
He'll bring it up, but he won't push you about it.
No, he won't. He'll just be like, oh, that's an interesting placement. You know, he won't say, don't do that. If it's working, I'm curious to see what my A1C is today.
Arden doesn't wear her Dexcom in a place that I think is approved. And never has. Like, Arden's been wearing her Dexcom on her hips for ever. So, yeah. But
see, and I can't wear any devices on my stomach. I get, for some reason, really bad rashes there.
Okay.
So I'm always trying to find other places to, I put them on my calves, on the back of my calves, on my thighs, my outer thighs, anywhere that I hadn't worn it the time before or 3 times before.
Just trying to move it around.
Just trying to move it around and find new places.
Yeah. Listen, you should do what works, I think.
Yeah. Yep. That's what I'm doing.
But, the companies have to say what they have to say. They have to say, look, this is where it's been FDA tested in these places. It's approved to wear in these spots. That's what their marketing has to say. So, and your doctor knows that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Almost like writing something off label when they're like, yo, you're not supposed to have this, but we know it works. So here,
Yeah. So the interesting thing about me, I said I'm a school teacher, wearing it in different places. Sometimes the kids see the devices and sometimes they don't see the devices. And it's very interesting. I had a first grader come into class and he saw my Dexcom. He raised his hand and he said, do you have type 1 diabetes? And I said, yes, I do. I said, does somebody in your family have type 1 diabetes? And he said, no, I saw it on YouTube.
There you go.
He saw a Dexcom commercial on whatever YouTube show he was watching, and he recognized it from the YouTube commercial.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I think that kid just lost Nick Jonas a big Super Bowl ad because if the YouTube videos are working that well, I don't think we need to spend all the big money. Oh, wow. That's also, it would have been nice if he said, I heard it on a podcast, but it was mine. Wouldn't that be great if he was like, yeah, I love that podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's funny.
What's happening?
Yeah. But the kids always, they're always curious about what the things are on my body. So I have to come up with, creative ways to explain it to them without scaring them to death. Completely.
But you're very open about it with them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they can see the devices. Sure. I mean, I'm not going to tell them that's not, don't worry about that. I mean, they want to know. So all my students all know what type 1 diabetes is.
Oh, listen, my 4th grade teacher was a borderline homicidal maniac, but he never shared that with any of us. So I wasn't sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and they hear I have alarms and things are beeping in class sometimes. And so they have to know what it is. Because if they hear an alarm, they're going to think I'm dying.
Yeah.
And I don't want them to think that.
Do any of them know what to do if you should get low?
Yes, I do tell like my older kids in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, if something were to happen, like we have a plan, like you push this button like that notifies the office and then you go knock on the neighbor's door. So,
and you get 100 bonus points and an A.
Right. An A if you save my life.
Yeah. Anyone who saves me is passing. I just want to put that out there right now.
Yeah, just put that out there right now. Yeah, please don't let me lay here and die.
Listen, if you have to fight each other to save me, I don't care. Okay?
Right, I don't care. Yeah.
One of you needs to prevail.
Yeah, throw your instruments on the ground. I don't care.
Can you imagine if the last thing you heard, besides the ringing in your ears, was the clunking of brass things hitting the floor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, good. They're coming.
Funny.
They're coming.
Yeah.
So you keep stuff in the room. I mean, how far does that go? They don't know about glucagon. They know about juice.
Oh, no. They just know to seek help. Actually, all of my, I don't have glucagon. I have the, what's the other one called?
You mean
the inhaled one?
Oh, that goes in your nose.
Yeah.
Oh, Erin,
I can't think.
That's still glucagon. It's just.
Yeah. Okay. But they call it something else. What's the name of it?
The brand name's Baqsimi?
Yes, there you go. That's it.
Right.
So all of my colleagues, they know where that is in my classroom, and the school nurse has one on campus.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good.
In the nurse's office, just in case. But since I've had one episode at school where I got really low and I was not in my classroom. So I had nothing, like I had no fruit snacks or anything like that to help.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in the nurse's room, and then I ended up, so I was having a really bad low, and I was sitting in the nurse's office, and I also had a stomach virus.
Okay.
So I was like, oh my God, I started feeling really bad. So I don't know if one was connected to the other. That's the only,
That makes
since
sense.
I've been on the only horrible incident of being low.
Were you dizzy? Were you not making sense? How low were you?
Oh yeah, for sure. I wasn't making any sense. Like all I could do, I showed her my my Dexcom, and I said, "Can you help me?" that's all I could get out.
Help me.
Of my mouth.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you got that out. Also, I'm worried that cynical people who listen to the podcast just heard me mispronounce Baqsimi at first. And they're like, he's doing that on purpose because Gvoke HypoPen is a sponsor and he's trying to act like he doesn't know what it is. But I actually forgot how to pronounce it for a second. Just so.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know what it was called at all. And I have it carried around in my purse every day.
Well, yeah, that's right. Damn it.
I'm not on you. That's me.
No, as I stumbled over the word, I thought there's a handful of cynical people that are like, oh, good try, Scott. But no.
Right.
Anyway, gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah. See, I didn't even know that was a sponsor because I'm only
you're
on
not far enough ahead. Yeah.
I'm not far enough podcast.
Yeah, that's so fun. Listen, we did a survey last year of like 1,100 podcast listeners and asked them how many episodes they listen to a week. And the amount of people who used the answer, I listen to them all, was heartwarming.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't mean just all a week. These people meant, look, I listened to all of the episodes and I started from the beginning. So I was like, oh, it's wonderful. So, anyway, what else we got here for you? Okay. Oh, I said I get back to insurance. So it's pretty interesting because you got a clear diagnosis. They did, testing that proves you have type 1 diabetes. And then, you work for a school system. I would assume you guys have pretty solid insurance, right?
Yeah, pretty decent insurance. Yeah.
Okay. So what happened?
They sent the prescription in, and our insurance I think it's just the first thing because you can use they would cover the pens, insulin pens, or the vials and the needles, but not a pod, not a pump or a CGM. And so it had to get special approval in order for my insurance to cover it.
Okay.
And so I think we probably went through, it's crazy what they make you go through. They send it through prescription, and they know that it's going to be denied through prescription because they want the Dexcom to go through durable medical equipment. And so then they denied it like 3 more times through durable medical equipment. And then they tried to do the pods through durable medical, but we had to get a denial from there before a prescription would say that they would cover it. Mm. And so finally for the CGM, the pods got approved first. That seems like that was easier. But the CGM, the doctor's office finally wrote a letter saying that I teach very young children, and it's very traumatizing to them to see their teacher checking their blood sugar multiple times through the day and giving herself injections as needed with students in the room.
That's how they got it for you?
Yes. And then
this makes any sense.
Finally got approved.
So, Erin, well before yours comes out, but you're never going to get to it. There's going to be a series. There's a series in 2024 coming up called Whistleblower.
Okay.
Anonymous professionals are going to come on and talk about their professions.
Okay.
And it's going to be physicians, pharmacists, human resources people, insurance people. And I just got done recording with a person who's like a 25-year human resources professional who now has spent the last 7 years in insurance. And she basically came on and just told me all the ways that your company, your employer, or your insurance company are willfully and purposely fucking you. And
for sure.
And I was like, fascinated. And one of the things she said that I've always kind of believed, to be perfectly honest, but she goes, they're going to deny everything the first time.
Correct. Yeah.
That's just step one, deny. Because some people don't come back. Some people go, oh, it got denied.
Yeah.
And then they give up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, not uncommon.
And the interesting thing is that I know other people that have our school system health insurance that have a CGM and an Omnipod. So there are other people in the district that have been approved for these devices, but they don't approve everybody.
I have type 1, they have type 1. I work for you, they work for you.
Right.
Give me my Omnipod. Yeah.
Right. It shouldn't be. If you did it for one, you should do it for all.
Yeah. Yeah. The need for an insulin pump or a CGM is being a type 1, not because kids don't like it when you test in front of them, which, by the way, they probably don't give a crap. But they just have to come up with some stupid excuse that the insurance company agrees to believe. I don't know. It's so it's all ridiculous. Yeah. It's all about money and keeping money. Trust me.
Okay. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Did you have another alarm?
Yeah. I don't know what's wrong. I'm just stuck at 150.
Erin, listen, don't bolus too much because you're excited making the podcast.
Then I'm going to crash.
Yeah. It's adrenaline from making the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't do it too much. I'm as cool as a cucumber because I've made 1,100 of these, but
right.
But this is your first time. So you're excited. Yep. Yeah. Don't bolus too much. I think maybe hold off. Just let it beep.
Okay.
Yeah. Cause you're going to get done here and you're going to need a snack afterwards. So
yeah, probably so. But that's okay. I like snacks. So
who doesn't love a snack? I mean,
that's right. A good snack.
A good, bad, indifferent. Who cares?
Yeah.
I ate a couple pieces of candy watching a football game last night. So.
Oh wow! Yeah, wow.
Yeah, I was like, they're gonna lose. I was like, damn it.
Oh man, I didn't even realize who. I don't even know who played last night.
The Chiefs and the Eagles were last night. On Monday night. So, what's your team? You said you go to watch football with friends. Who do you watch?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm a Saints fan, and my husband is a Green Bay Packer fan.
Oh, somebody has to be. That's nice.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, he grew up in Wisconsin, so I forgive him.
Oh, I think he has to. I think it's like a law, maybe. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Don't they own the team or something?
Oh, yeah. He owns 2 shares of the team, so.
Yeah. What a plan. It's great. It's fantastic. It's working out well.
Yeah, it is working out well. Yeah. We're getting all the profits.
Yeah. Seriously, do you get like a check from that?
No. That's sarcasm.
Oh, okay.
All the Packer fans are going to hate me. You get a piece of paper that you can put on the wall.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, can you imagine if everybody's getting like a 24-cent check every year? Like, hey,
no.
Here's your piece of the Packers.
Nope. I think you get invited to a voters meeting too.
Oh, I bet you that's a show.
Yeah. Yeah.
So are you guys in the South or are you in the North?
Yes. Yeah, we're in the South.
Yeah, I mean, it's warmer. Yeah. Makes sense. Also, it's where you're from, so you just won that argument, I assume.
Wait, say that again.
I mean, you're from there, so when it was time to move somewhere, you said, I want to go here, and he was like, all right, and that was it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
good for you.
Much.
For you. I endeavor to be that person in a relationship one day, but it hasn't happened so far.
Yeah. Well, we both went to school together in Louisiana.
Oh.
And so that's how we met. And then we got married and we're like, where are we going to live? And I'm like, well, it's warm here. I'm not going to the snow. So this is where we ended up.
Yeah. I get what happened. You're the prettier of the two of you. And you were like, this is where we're going. And that was the end of it. Yeah. That's how it works in my life too. I go, what do you want to do? Sounds great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you have the cyst on your thyroid removed?
No, it was like not anything to worry about. It wasn't, it was just there and not anything to be of concern about.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And it's funny. So, I wanted to go back over that for people who might not understand that stroke screening, they're looking for clogged arteries in your neck.
Right. Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct. And like they do a scan on like your kidneys and your like something in your ankles to make sure the blood is flowing, all kinds of other things.
Yeah, you don't want to have a stroke in your ankle. It's horrible.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. I obviously have a very clear understanding of medicine. What other things do you want to talk about on the podcast? Are we missing anything? I don't want to miss anything.
No, I mean, I think that it's just, the journey to it's one thing that's interesting when we when I found out I had type 2 diabetes, I went back over all of my medical tests from the fertility treatments, and even had my mother-in-law, who is she was teaching nursing at the time, had her look over all my medical records, and we could not find a single time where they checked my A1C or my fasting glucose.
Really?
Really.
For how many years?
So we did that for 3 years. So that was probably started the process in like 2010, 11.
Jeez.
And so overall that time, like nobody, and they can never find anything. Like they said, we had unexplained infertility. I'm like, I just keep hitting the medical jackpot. And so.
Have you ever considered you had unexplained infertility because your blood sugar was high?
Right. Well, that's what I always, or did the messing with my hormones, push my body into type 1 diabetes.
I don't know. I don't know if I've ever heard that one. I haven't heard any. I mean, I don't know, but I haven't heard anybody wonder out loud about that.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah, it's interesting. Does it?
I don't know either.
Keep you up at night? Do you wonder about it?
Not anymore. I mean, it used to. When I was first diagnosed with type 2, you have that, oh, why me kind of thing. Yeah. But now we have 2 beautiful children. I mean, that's all, that's all in the past now.
Okay.
And so we're moving forward, raising our kiddos. So
how old are they?
6 and 2.
Oh, that's lovely. Are they brothers?
No, they are not biologically related.
Okay.
But they are, as most brothers can be, love each other. We play WW wrestling every night, just like brothers do.
Yeah. No, I don't imagine it's any different because they're adopted. I just wondered if they were if they were biological. Yeah, I'm adopted, so I know how it works.
Oh, yeah. Yep, I did know that. See? So we have with the oldest one, we know his birth family, but with the second one, we do not have any connection with his birth family.
Any better or worse in that situation?
I don't think so. Not right now. Our oldest one is just coming to realize what being adopted means. And so, of course, the little one, he's only 2, so he doesn't have any comprehension of that yet. But we don't keep it. It's not a secret in our house. Like we're raising them, knowing them knowing that they are adopted and what that means.
I remember knowing back as earlier as kindergarten or so, which is pretty much as early as my memories are, to be perfectly honest. So, yeah, I've always known. My mom would tell me, they always told me, they were always very open. Although I had 2 brothers who were biological to my parents.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was weird, but not weird bad. Just, if something happened in the house, you could see 4 people kind of gravitating towards a thought. And I would always be slightly different. I'd be like, I don't know why they're thinking about it like that. Why not like this?
Right.
That was really where I noticed it more than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a big deal. I mean, I've found it to be a very positive part of my life, actually.
Yeah. I mean, I think our oldest one, he knows her name. We visit with her and, they have a good relationship.
Okay.
So,
is that a thing I'm sorry, were you fearful of it in the beginning? Did you ever have a feeling what if she changes her mind or something like that?
Not really. It just always seemed natural, if that, as weird as that might sound, visiting with her. And the first visit was probably the most uncomfortable. But then after that, it just seemed like that's what we do.
Yeah.
She's just, it's part of our family.
Nice. How often does he see her?
We try to visit on the holidays, his birthday. During the summer, we'll go do, the zoo or something like that. I send her pictures and videos of, stuff that he's doing and stay connected that way. So we actually live in the same town, so are close to each other.
What's the key message to him about why he's with you and not her?
That she loved him and knew that she wanted him to have a mommy and daddy in the home and a brother and siblings. And so she chose us to raise him.
Okay.
That she loved him so much that she wanted us to raise him.
Gotcha. Nice. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think there's any right or wrong way to do that. I was just wondering what you guys were doing. Yeah.
Yeah. We call her, that's his tummy mommy. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Which is the truth, right?
Yeah. It's very easy it's easy to remember and it rhymes a little. I love it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She doesn't have a t-shirt.
Right. So, I mean, we have a strong connection with her too, because he was born at 28 weeks, was in the NICU for 78 days.
Mm-hmm.
And she would come and visit him and in the NICU, and we would, we were all in that process together of getting him through to be a healthy baby.
Right.
Oh,
that's lovely. So you knew you were adopting him before he was born?
Yes. So we were matched with her actually through a friend who knew her OBGYN, like connected us together.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting.
Which is a really weird story. And then it ended up going through an adoption agency. So he was born, I guess about a week later after he was born, we got to see him in the NICU. Which is, I mean, when they're that premature, it's really seeing him, because you can take them out of their, well, we call it the Snow White coffin, because it's like the little clear bassinet things with all the wires and oxygen. You can only take them out for a limited amount of time from that, and then they have to be put back.
Yeah, out of their baby pod.
Yeah, out of the baby pod, yeah.
The Snow White coffin.
Yeah.
Erin.
That's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like once you said it out loud, you were like, we should probably come up with another name for that.
Yeah, we should probably say that's something else.
Where the Thing happened to Cast the Apple. You saw the movie.
Yeah, you saw the movie. It's not really a coffin.
Everything's fine. It's a bed, really.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Well, you know what? That's how we explained it to my son, because he was like, "Why am I in that?" And so
in the pictures.
That's how, with the pictures, he didn't understand why he was in this box, and so that's what we called it when he was little.
Yeah, I probably would have called it a baby oven. I would have probably been like, you weren't.
Oh, a baby oven.
Yeah, like
that's
you
so
weren't.
Much more, yeah,
we weren't done. You weren't done yet. We had to cook you a little longer.
Yeah, you had to cook you. Well, that's so much. Okay, we'll change it to baby oven.
That reminds me, when my son was like a baby, my wife, I was a stay-at-home dad. My wife went back to work. I used to send her pictures all the time. And we had this big pan. And one day I realized he was smaller than the pan. So I opened the oven. The oven was not on, I want to be clear. And I pulled out the rack, and I put the pan on the rack, made sure it was very stable. Then I put him in the pan. Then I took a photo of the oven with him in the pan and the thing. And I sent it to her at work. Where I assume she thought, fun. What am I doing with this idiot? And why did I make a baby with him? It popped up in my timeline the other day. I was like, oh, I love that picture.
Yeah, that's funny. I love that.
I also used to put him, this is before people had cameras in their phone. Well, actually, this is before cell phones. But I would put him in a sleeper, like, a one piece, like, and they were real fuzzy. And then I would go, we had this kind of like hallway, and it was, I was going to say wood, but that's not true. It was just a laminate floor that looked like wood. So it's like a smooth floor. And I would put a video camera at the end, and then I would slide him down the floor. No one judge me. Head first on his back towards the camera. And he would flip on his belly and then belly slide the rest of the way.
That's funny.
Right at the camera. Then I'd like have to offload the video and then upload it to the computer. And it's like this small little fuzzy picture, because like this is a long time. I'm old. So there was like the technology was terrible back then. And then go through all of that to send it to my wife in this little fuzzy grainy email, just so I could get her to call me and go, what are you guys doing?
They're doing. That's funny.
I spent like a whole morning just to torment her with that 30-second video. Which, by the way, now I can't find anymore, and it's upsetting to me that I can't find it.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do? I could probably try it again,
great.
But I don't think I could pick him up to throw him anymore. So anyway, I didn't thump him. Like, think of bowling. Like, you just lay the ball down nice and smooth, right? There's no impact at the ground. You're very low to the ground when you let go. I don't want to be judged by DIFUS or anything like that. I mean, he's 23 now. They can't come after me.
Yeah, he turned out okay.
I mean, I think so. But I don't think they can come after me anymore. I think I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I mean, I used to stand in front of the microwave when I was a kid, so I turned out okay.
You can't hear a damn thing, Erin. So I don't know. Maybe that's not
right.
right.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry.
and I teach music. So.
Oh yeah. You think maybe it like lowered your expectations? What are you trying to say? Oh my gosh. That's so funny. I have a question for you if you don't mind.
Yep.
So you have this unique experience. You're listening to me make a podcast in 15 and 16. No, Winnie, hold on. I have to even look. I don't even, it'd be nice if I knew one thing about this podcast. I'm going to look at something real quick. So if you're on, what did you say? Episode like 130-ish?
137.
Okay. Oh, look at you. Know exactly. You're up to Dr. Jessica Lloyd. Jessica was diagnosed at 27 while in medical school. Today, episode offers a perspective of a person living with type 1 diabetes who also happens to be a physician. Oh, that's back when I used to write descriptions for the episodes. I don't really do that much anymore. Now I would have said like Jessica. Listen to it if you want to know. I don't have time.
Right.
But no,
listen if you want to know what it's about.
Yeah, this was published on November 15th, 2017.
Yeah.
So is there a difference between me 2017 and me right now talking to you on the phone or on the recording?
It doesn't feel like it.
Doesn't feel different. I didn't get better or worse at it or anything like that.
Well, I don't know. I have to listen to how you make me sound.
No, you're going to sound like this conversation. I'm not going to change it.
No. Yeah, I'm just kidding.
But I don't feel oddly different or anything like that to you?
No.
Okay.
No. I think it's just always, when I listen, I always just hear a conversation with real people. I think that's the connection to it.
Yeah.
Is that, you can connect with the people that are telling the stories because it's, what you are going through also. And that's what keeps me coming back listening to it. And I mean, obviously it's helped me. It's, providing me with information that is helping me become a healthier person.
Yeah, you're doing great.
Not perfect, but according to my A1C, I still have, I have lows sometimes where I'm like, my kids are talking to me and I'm like, what is happening right now?
Yeah. They're like, don't worry, she can't hear. This is nothing.
Yeah.
No, nobody's listening. You're not trying to be perfect. You're doing terrific though.
Right.
Like, I mean, you just genuinely are. Do you think the honeymoon's over?
Oh yeah, I think so. Like I noticed I think we were talking about, like, I went to the endo and he was like, so your carb to insulin ratio is this? And I was like, no, I changed it. Like that was the end of it. Like when I had to increase that ratio and actually I'm using more insulin now than when I was right at the beginning. So I think, that's over.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, listen, you're doing fantastic. If the podcast helped you, I think that's wonderful. I'm happy. I don't want to like take credit for something I didn't do, but I mean, you're not getting direction anywhere else, right?
No, I mean, you see your endo every 3 months. I think, you've said it before, if you're waiting every 3 months to make change, then, I mean, that's a long period of time.
Yeah.
I don't want to walk around with a blood sugar of 250 for 3 months for somebody to tell me to change something.
Yeah.
And I have changed it and it was like too much. And I said, well, I just need to change it back or back off a little bit,
Good for you.
So I still haven't, there are things that I avoid. I don't eat rice. I don't eat pasta. I don't eat pizza just because it's too much work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a personal decision. I just don't feel like dealing with it.
Sure.
I just avoid it.
Yeah. I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't see anything wrong with learning how to bolus for rice if you want to. And I don't see anything wrong with saying, you know what? I can't, this is too much of a hassle for me and just don't do it.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, people make fun of me for eating my red beans and rice on cauliflower rice, but they can get over it. So
they making fun of you? Who's making fun of you?
Well, I mean, I live in South Louisiana. I mean, you don't eat red beans on cauliflower rice.
Now, tell them what. Say, look, you make fun of me all you want. I'm coming to your funeral. Don't worry about it.
Right. That's exactly right. That's right.
I'll be here. Don't worry.
I eat it in hiding. I just don't show people.
I love that it's colloquially such a problem that you're just like, I can't eat this in front of other people. Don't mock me.
Right. That's right. I mean, you eat everything on rice here.
Well, actually, I think there's a fair amount of type 2 diabetes in Louisiana.
Oh, yeah, dude, you are correct about that. I mean, but maybe we should think about all that rice.
Yeah, a little, maybe just a little less.
Yeah, a little less.
Spread that doesn't need to be every day. Why every day? Well,
wait, say that again.
I said it doesn't need to be every day. And culturally, there's a lot of food impacts for people.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Through all different kinds of, groups of people that they have things that I've had Spanish, people with diabetes or Spanish on here that are like, hey, the food we eat is hard to bolus for.
Yeah.
I've had Indians on here talking about the food they eat. It's hard to bolus for.
Right.
I did a talk over a Shabbos weekend for an Orthodox group. And I mean, Jesus, like you need a fire hose with insulin for some of the stuff they're eating over Shabbos.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
It's just, and it all ends up being cultural stuff that when you ask people like, hey, that's probably not healthy. They go, oh, it's what we do. I'm like, doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pick something else and then start saying that's what we do. And before you know it, that'll be what you do.
Yep. Yeah. That's right. So
good for you. I'm proud of you for doing that, especially while people are making fun of you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't care.
No, I don't imagine you do, but still it sucks. Yeah. You're at an event and everybody's like, hey, what are you doing wrong with your food? You're like, I'm over here staying alive. Like, go to hell.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't feel like drinking the insulin while I eat this food.
Yeah. I'm trying to make a healthy decision here. You should try it.
Yeah.
That's it. Get real at the next event.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stand up on a table, start yelling at them.
Yeah.
They'll be like,
start making protest signs for cauliflower rice.
The kids will be like, she's low. She needs a juice.
Yeah.
That's how she yells at us when she's low. Is it when you're alone with kids and you have diabetes, is that a thing you think about?
Sometimes, actually, like alone with my personal children.
Yeah, meaning like what if you can't help them and you're at home by yourself? Yeah,
so my neighbor, she knows that I'm type 1 and she knows about the glucagon, all of that, where it is in my purse and what I look like when I'm low. Because I've been out there, we play the kids playing or whatever. I'm like, I got to go inside and get a cracker. But Jacob, like our oldest, he knows that if something happened to mommy, like he knows how to dial 911 on my phone and he knows to run next door to get the neighbor.
Okay. Very nice.
But no, I mean, we haven't put that into practice. Yeah. So if something did happen, I'm not sure how it would turn out. My husband does follow me though on the Share app, but sometimes I'll ask him, I'll be like, hey, did you see I had a really a low today? He was like, oh, I didn't check it. I'm like, maybe you should.
Note to self, this one does not have my back. Okay, yeah. Because I made him leave Green Bay.
Yeah.
Still pissed about Green Bay. Note to self. I mean, you'll show everybody how to use the glucagon, though, right?
Yeah. I mean, he knows he knows where it is and how to use it. I feel like I'm pretty confident. Like I always know what my blood sugar is. So if you can, you're catching the lows when they're coming. I mean, I haven't had that experience where I've gotten so low that I couldn't catch it yet.
Yeah, well, Erin, I don't want to bum you out, but that's not how seatbelts work. So, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah. So, I mean,
and I'm only in this a year. So, I mean, I've been very fortunate so far. Like, I mean, I wasn't in DKA when I was diagnosed. I didn't, that was not my experience coming into this.
Yeah. I'm not saying you have a bad plan. I think your plan's terrific. I just think that, like emergencies don't happen with usually somebody telling you, hey, there's going to be an emergency later. That's not
right.
It's not usually how it goes. So, it's nice for everybody to know how to do it. Even the 6-year-old, like, hey, mommy, if you can't wake mommy up, stick this up her nose and give it a squeeze. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I mean, because if you're just asleep, I'm assuming you'll be like, hey, kid, get the hell out of here.
Yeah. Yeah, you might sneak in my room and just to see what happens if he squirts it in my nose.
Mommy, wake up. She didn't wake up. Boom, boom.
Yeah.
Well, apparently what happens
remember, I can't hear anything at night when I'm sleeping because I take my hearing aids out.
Oh, yeah. Well, then hell, maybe don't tell him that right away, I guess.
Yeah. I might wait till he's like 8.
Yeah, until he understands it a little firmer. It's amazing. Right. Well, Erin, this is terrific. I appreciate you doing this very much and for coming on. I like having different perspectives. And, sometimes a person who's only had diabetes for a year is a good, fresh perspective, so really, really wonderful conversation. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I enjoyed this.
Oh, I'm glad. Oh, I never think to ask people that. I wonder, do you think people get done and they're like, I did not enjoy that at all?
Oh, maybe. I mean, I'm a teacher. I talk in front of people all day long. So
not uncomfortable.
And my husband always tells me I talk too much. So
Oh my God.
So this was fun.
When my kids were little, they'd be like, you're talking to strangers. And I was like, yeah, it's conversational. Yes. You'll figure it out, blah, blah, blah. And now my son talks to a lot of, but is a little chatty guy here. Yeah. And he used to make fun of me about it. He's like, you don't even know that guy. And I was like, yeah, I mean, what do you mean I don't know him? We're standing next to each other at the grocery store.
Yep. Well, I do the same. My family complains about the same thing. Why are you talking to that person? You don't even know him. I'm like, well, now I do.
Now I do, yeah. Oh my God. Speaking of the grocery store, this needs to be told somewhere. So I'm standing at the grocery store the other day, like checking out. And there's like a main entrance to the store, but there's sort of this other entrance on the front face of the store that they don't use. Mm-hmm. And so it's a door, but it's, it says, look, don't open this. An alarm will sound, blah, 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 like this whole thing. And, you hear the door click, click, which is not customary because usually the entrance is way down away from where I was standing. So you hear that door and you think that's weird. And it makes you look up. And then the alarm goes off. And this guy, like, I don't know, like this 35-year-old guy is like trying to steal stuff. Like he's got like a handful of stuff and he's trying to make it out the door. Except when he decides to burst through the door, there's an employee outside from the grocery store, like standing there, like, I don't know, on a break or what's going on. But the employee is like this 40-year-old guy who's like 6'4". And I was like, I looked up, I saw everything going on. I was like, this isn't going to go well. But it's 2023 and everybody's scared of everything. So I watched the big guy try to like box him out to keep him like in the doorway. But he didn't want to put his hands on him. But Erin, there was a moment where the big guy from the grocery store, his first reaction was to reach out, grab the guy and toss him. And I watched him reach for his like collar. And then he consciously pulled his hands back, like, don't touch him. And we were all watching it happen. And everyone's silent. And out loud, I said, ooh, in 1975, that guy'd get his ass kicked. And everybody started laughing inside of the store. Because when I was a kid, the grocery store guy would have grabbed him by his face, thrown him on the ground, and kicked him. And but you watched like the litigious nature of the world. He reached for him and just was like, nope, pulled his hands back in. And then I made everybody laugh inside the grocery store. Yeah. So I diffused the tense situation. Also, by the way, the guy got away with his stuff because nobody's allowed to touch him. Well, that's what was going to be my question. Did he get away with it? He walked away looking at them. Like, what are you going to do? Wow. And I was like, he's so lucky. It's not like when I was growing up. Like, What would have happened was the cops would have come and said, what happened to this guy? And they would have said, oh, no, he tripped. That would have been the end of it. And we all would have been like, yeah, I saw him trip too. Yep. Anyway, Erin, you were terrific. I really appreciate coming on doing this with me. Oh, yeah. This was fun. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Oh, it's my pleasure. Hold on one second, okay? Okay. Jalen is an incredible example of what so many experience living with diabetes. You show up for yourself and others every day, never letting diabetes define you. And that is what the Medtronic Champion community is all about. Each of us is strong, and together we're even stronger. To hear more stories from the Medtronic Champion community or to share your own story, visit medtronicdiabetes.com/juicebox and look out online for the hashtag Medtronic Champion. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoy my full conversation with Jalen coming up in just a moment. Arden has been getting her diabetes supplies from US Med for 3 years. You can as well. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. My thanks to US Med for sponsoring this episode and for being longtime sponsors of the Juicebox Podcast. There are links in the show notes and links at juiceboxpodcast.com to US Med and all of the sponsors. A huge thank you to one of today's sponsors, Gvoke Glucagon. Find out more about Gvoke HypoPen at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox. You spell that GVOKEGLUCAGON.com/juicebox. If you're not already subscribed or following in your favorite audio app, please take the time now to do that. It really helps the show. And get those automatic downloads set up so you never miss an episode. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back very soon with another episode of the Juicebox Podcast. Thanks for hanging out until the end. Now you're going to hear my entire conversation with Jalen. Don't forget MedtronicDiabetes.com/juicebox or the hashtag Medtronic Champion on your favorite social media platform.
My name is Jalen Mayfield. I am 29 years old. I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where I am originally from Waynesboro, Mississippi. So I've kind of traveled all over. I've just landed here in the Midwest and haven't left since.
Nice. How old were you when you were diagnosed with type 1 diabetes?
I was 14 years old when I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes.
15 years ago. Wow.
Yes.
Okay. 14 years old. What are you like? Do you remember what grade you were in?
I actually do, because we have like an 8th grade promotion. So I had just had 8th grade promotion. So I was going straight into high school. So it was a summer heading into high school.
Was that particularly difficult going into high school with this new thing?
It was unimaginable. You know, I missed my entire summer. So I was going to a brand new school with, you know, our community. We brought 3 different schools together. So I was around a bunch of new people that I had not been going to school with. So it was hard trying to balance that while also explaining to people what type 1 diabetes was.
Did you even know, or were you just learning at the same time?
I honestly was learning at the same time. My hometown did not have an endocrinologist. So I was traveling almost over an hour to the nearest, you know, pediatrician, like endocrinologist for children. So, you know, outside of that, I didn't have any type of support in my hometown.
Was there any expectation of diabetes? Does somebody else in your family have type 1?
No, I was the first one to have type 1 in my family.
And do you have children now?
I do not.
No. Do you think you will one day?
Still thinking about it, but right now I've just been traveling, focusing on my career and myself. So
what do you do? What's your career?
Yeah, so I am a marketing leasing specialist for a student housing company. So we oversee about 90 properties throughout the US. So I've been working for them for about 8 years now.
And you get to travel a lot in that job?
Yes, I experience a lot of travel. It's fun, but also difficult, especially with all your type 1 diabetes supplies and all your electronics. So it's a bit of a hassle sometimes.
Mm-hmm. What do you find that you absolutely need with you while you're traveling, diabetes-wise?
I have learned my biggest thing I need is some type of glucose. I have experienced lows, whether that's on a flight, traveling, walking through the airport. And I used to always experience just being nervous to ask for some type of snack or anything. So I felt like I needed to always have something on me, and that has made my travel a lot easier.
Okay. So growing up in this small town, what was your initial challenge during diagnosis, and what other challenges did you find along the way?
Yeah, I think the initial one, I felt isolated. I had no one to talk to that it was experiencing what I was going through. You know, people would say, oh, I know this is like hard for you, but I was like, you really don't. Like, I just felt lonely. I didn't know, you know, people were watching everything I did. It was like, you can't eat this, you can't eat that. I felt like all of my childhood had been, you know, I don't even remember what it was like for a life before diabetes at this point, because I felt like that's the only thing I could focus on was trying to do a life with type 1 diabetes.
When you found yourself misunderstood, did you try to explain to people, or did you find it easier just to stay private?
I just held back. I didn't really like talking about it. It felt like it was just a repeating record where I was saying things and people weren't understanding it. And I also was still in the process of learning it. So I just, you know, kept it to myself, didn't really talk about it unless I absolutely had to.
Did you eventually find people in real life that you could confide in?
I think I never really got the experience until after getting to college. And then once I graduated college and moving to an even bigger town, that's where I finally found those people where I was like, okay, there's a lot of other people that have type 1 diabetes. And, you know, there's a community out there which I had never experienced before.
Is college where you met somebody with diabetes for the first time, or just where you met more people with different ways of thinking?
So I met my first person with diabetes, actually my freshman year of high school. There was only one other person, and he had it since he was a kid, like young, since we was like maybe born. Mm-hmm. Or like right after that time frame. So that was the only other person I knew until I got to college and I started meeting other people. I was a member of the band and I was an RA. So I was like, okay, there's a small handful of people also at my university. But then once I moved to St. Louis, and a lot of my friends I met were like med students and they were young professionals. And that's where I started really getting involved with one of my really close friends to this day. he was also type 1 diabetic. And I was like, that's who introduced me to all these different types of communities and technologies, and which is really what helped jumpstart my learning more with type 1 diabetes.
Do you think, I mean, there was that one person in high school, but you were young. Do you really think you were ready to build a relationship and around diabetes, or did you even know the reason why that would be important at the time?
I didn't. I honestly didn't think about it. I just was like, oh, there's another person in my class that's kind of going through the same thing as I am, but they've also had it a lot longer than I have. So they've kind of got it down. They don't really talk about it. And I was like, well, I don't really have much to connect with them. Connect with them on.
Yeah. No. So now once your world expands as far as different people, different backgrounds, different places in college, you see the need to connect in real life, but there's still only a few people, but there's still value in that, right?
Correct.
What do you think that value was at the time?
I think it was just making me feel like I was just a normal person. I just wanted that. And I needed to know that there was other people out there with type 1 diabetes experiencing the same type of, thoughts that I was having.
When were you first introduced to the Medtronic Champions community?
Yeah. So about 2 years ago, I was, becoming more, I was looking around and I stumbled upon the Medtronic community, and I was like, this is something I really, really, I kind of need. I said, all throughout these years, I was, afraid to show my pump. I would wear long sleeves, didn't want people to see my CGMs because I didn't want people to ask me questions. And, I just felt so uncomfortable. And then I noticed seeing these people really in the Medtronic community, they embraced it. You could see them. They weren't afraid to show it. And that was something I was really looking forward to.
How is it knowing that your diabetes technology is such an important part of your health and your care and having to hide it? What did it feel like to have to hide that diabetes technology, and how did it feel to be able to kind of let it go?
I refused to go anywhere. And I would run to the bathroom. I just didn't want to do it in public because I felt like people were watching me. And that was just one of the hardest things I was trying to overcome. I was fresh out of college, going into the young professional world. So, going out on work events and things like that, I just didn't think to have it out because I was so afraid. But then once I did start, embracing it and showing it, that's when the curiosity came. And it was actually genuine questions and people wanting to know more about the equipment that I'm on and how does this work and what does this mean and things like that, which it kind of inspired me because I was like, okay, people actually do want to understand what I'm experiencing with type 1 diabetes.
What did you experience when the internet came into play and now suddenly as easy as a hashtag and you can meet all these other people who are living with diabetes as well? Can you tell me how that is either different or valuable, I guess, compared to meeting a few people in real life?
Absolutely. I think if you look back from when I was first diagnosed to now, I would have never thought of searching anything for someone with type 1 diabetes. And now it's it's all I see. You can easily search Medtronic Champions and you see people that pop up and you're like, wow, look at all this content. And I think that's something that kind of just motivates me, and which is how I've kind of came out of my shell and started embracing more and posting more on my social media about how I live with type 1 diabetes. And I think that's something that I hope can inspire everyone else.
What was it like having more personal, intimate relationships in college with type 1?
I think it was kind of hard to explain, just for example, no one really understands what a low is. And I think that was a very hard thing for me to explain. It can happen in any moment and I'm sweating. I'm just really not all there. And I'm trying to explain hey, this is what's going on. I need your help. And I think that was something that was hard for me to, I did talk to people about it. So when this happened, they were like, oh, what's going on with you? I'm like, I'm actually a type 1 diabetic. Yeah. This is what's going on. I need your help.
What about once you've had an experience like that in front of someone, was it always bonding, or did it ever have people kind of step back and be maybe more, leery of your relationship?
After I would tell someone I had type 1 diabetes after some type of event or anything, they were kind of more upset with me that I didn't tell them up front. Because they were like, I care about you as a person. I would have loved to know this about you. It's not anything you should have to hide from me. And I think that was a lot of the realization that I was going through with a lot of people.
Okay. Let me ask you this. So now we talked about what it was like to be low. and to have that more kind of emergent situation. But what about when your blood sugar's been high or stubborn and you're not thinking correctly, but it's not as obvious, maybe to you or to them?
Yeah. So I go through my same experiences when I have high blood sugars. I can tell, like, from my coworkers, for example, I didn't really talk to, I'll backtrack. When I visit multiple sites for work, I usually don't announce it. And so sometimes I'm working throughout the day. I might have snacked, forgot to take some insulin, and my blood sugar is running high. And I'm a little bit more irritable. I'm all over the place. And I'm like, let me stop. Hey, guys, I need to take some insulin. I'm sorry, I didn't tell you guys I'm a diabetic. So you may be wondering why I'm kind of just a little bit snippy. So I like to make sure I do that now going forward, because that's something I noticed, and it was kind of hindering me in my career because I was, getting irritable because I'm working nonstop and I'm forgetting to take a step back and focus on my diabetes.
Right. Hey, with the advent of new technology like Medtronic CGM and other diabetes technology, can you tell me how that's improved your life and those interactions with people?
Yeah, I can. I feel confident knowing that it's working in the background. As someone, and I've always adamantly said it, I have been someone that's really bad with counting my carbs. So sometimes I kind of undershoot it because I'm scared, but it allows me to just know that, hey, it's got my back if I forget something. And I think that allows me to have a quick lunch, and then I'm able to get back into the work day, because it's such a fast-paced industry that I work in. So sometimes it is easy to forget. And so I love that I have that system that's keeping track of everything for me.
Let me ask you one last question. When you have interactions online with other people who have type 1 diabetes, what social media do you find the most valuable for you personally? Like, what platforms do you see the most people and have the most good interactions on?
Yeah, I've had tremendous interactions on Instagram. That's where I've kind of seen a lot of other diabetics reach out to me and ask me questions. I've commented and be like, hey, you're experiencing this too. But I've recently also been seeing TikToks and, finding on that side of it. I didn't, see the videos and the fun videos. And I'm like, I would love to do stuff like that, but I just never have the courage. So I'm seeing people make just the fun engagement videos now, which I love, really bringing that awareness to diabetes.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting? Maybe you don't know this, but there's some sort of an age cutoff somewhere where there is an entire world of people with type 1 diabetes existing on Facebook that don't go into TikTok or Instagram and vice versa.
Yeah.
And I do think it's pretty broken down by, when that platform was most popular for those people by age. But your younger people, I'm acting like I'm 100 years old, but younger people seem to enjoy video more.
Yes, I think it's just because it's something you see. And so it's and I think the one thing, and obviously it's a big stereotype around diabetes, is you don't look like you have diabetes. And that's something I always faced. And so when I see other people that are just, normal, everyday people, and I'm like, they have type 1 diabetes just like me. They're literally living their life, having fun. That's just something you want to see it, because you don't get to see people living their everyday lives with diabetes. And I think that's something I've really enjoyed.
Yeah. What are your health goals? When you go to the endocrinologist and you make a plan for the next few months, what are you hoping to achieve, and where do you struggle and where do you see your successes?
I'll be honest, I was not someone who was as, involved in my diabetes. I wasn't really focused on my health. And that was something that, you go into an endocrinologist and you get these results back and it's not what you want to hear. It makes you nervous. It makes you scared. And so I personally, for myself, I was like, this is my chance to change. I know there's people that are living just like me, everyday lives, and they can keep their A1Cs and their blood sugars under control. How can I do this? So I go in with, I would like to see it down a certain number of points each time. I would love for my doctor to be like, hey, I see you're entering your carbs. I see you're not having lows. You're not running high too often. That's my goal. And I've been seeing that. And that's what motivates me every time I go to the endocrinologist, where I don't dread going. It's like an exciting visit for me.
So you like to set a goal for yourself and then for someone to acknowledge it, to give you kind of that energy to keep going for the next goal.
Yeah, I feel as a type 1 diabetic, for me, and it's a lot to balance. It's a hard journey.
Yeah.
And so I want someone, when I go in, I want to be able to know, like, hey, I see what you're doing. Let's work together to do this. You don't want to be put down like, you're doing horrible. It's not going to motivate you, because you're already fighting a tough battle.
Right.
So just having that motivation and acknowledging the goods and also how we can improve, that's what really has been the game changer for me in the past 2 years.
Jalen, I appreciate you spending this time with me. This was terrific. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
If you enjoyed Jalen's story, check out medtronicdiabetes.com/juicebox. If you or a loved one was just diagnosed with type 1 diabetes and you're looking for some fresh perspective, the Bold Beginnings series from the Juicebox Podcast is a terrific place to start. That series is with myself and Jenny Smith. Jenny is a CDCES, a registered dietitian, and a type 1 for over 35 years. And in the Bold Beginnings series, Jenny and I are going to answer the questions that most people have after a type 1 diabetes diagnosis. The series begins at episode 698 in your podcast player, or you can go to juiceboxpodcast.com and click on Bold Beginnings in the menu. The episode you just heard was professionally edited by Wrong Way Recording, wrongwayrecording.com.